is up guys, Andy Forrestine Runner here, and today we're covering part 2 of the running shoes that I've been using in summer 2020. So as we're approaching the end of August, we're closing the next chapter on my set of running shoes before we jump into September and start testing another final load of shoes towards the end of the year. If you missed part 1 in this mini video series, because it's only a 2-part video series, I highly recommend you go and check that out. That video contains the 6 shoes that I was running in the first part of summer training. And today we're going to be covering the next 6 shoes that I've acquired since that video and I've been testing, and we'll go through their uses, their purposes, and if I'd recommend them to you guys moving forward or not. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the first pair. So we'll start off with the Nike PEGASUS 37, the only shoe that's been in both of these videos, the only duplicate, and the reason being it was in the first video to show you guys that I had it in for testing, but at the time we had no miles in the shoe. Well, now obviously we've got over 100 miles, we've done all the testing, all the videos are on the channel. I can give you a bit more information as to how we use this before we move on to the next shoe. So for me, this thing was very much used as an easy day steady shoe. I did a couple of long runs in the shoe. It worked better in the long runs at the slower paces than the faster paces. I did try and pick up the pace a bit. My first testing long run I did in it, it was a bit difficult to do that. But when I took it out later towards the end of its life, or to the end of its testing time, getting it up to 100 miles, I took it out for a 20-mile easy slow long run, and it actually did really well. You have to bear in mind I approached this shoe with a lot of hesitance, a lot of resistance, due to the fact that the Nike React Miler was such a bad shoe for me. So heavy, the React midsole was just, I'm not a fan of React midsole. So I was really hoping the air pocket, the AirPod in the front of the shoe would do something. First 15-20 miles, it really didn't. It took a while to break in. I don't know what the word is. My thoughts were confirmed in the beginning that this shoe wasn't going to be a good one. But then as the more miles we put in it, the more it started to break in. And I said this after my 100-mile review, it got a bit more enjoyable towards the end of its life. And I actually started to gravitate towards this shoe for going for those easier runs out of the shoes that I had in choice at that time. So it ended up being a shoe that took a while to break in. When we got there. It felt okay. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was okay. It got the job done. Easy, steady miles is what this thing was for. So moving on to the SAUCONY ENDORPHIN Speed, the next shoe to come into the lineup. Well, this isn't in any chronological order, but we'll talk about each shoe as they come. So this is another shoe that I have been using over the last couple of months, more so in the last month and a half. We're nearly at 100 miles in this thing, but not quite yet. I can't wait to get to that point and give you my thoughts on the shoe. The ENDORPHIN Pro you guys saw in the first video of this series and all my reviews. I love the ENDORPHIN Pro, such a great shoe from Saucony, and the Speed is exactly the same. Well, it's not exactly the same, but in my thoughts on the Speed to the Pro are exactly the same. I love this shoe. Saucony have done something pretty damn special with this ENDORPHIN range. I haven't tried the Shift, so I can't comment on that, but the Speed and the Pro are fan-flipping-tastic. How do I use this shoe? I've used this shoe for everything. The only thing I wouldn't recommend it for after the testing we've done so far is easy running. For me, it's not a daily trainer. It's not something that I'd take out just to go out and plod. This thing excels on the long run, on the speed work, intervals, tempo, hills, everything it does amazingly, just not easy work. The nylon plate is a lot more subtle than in the Pro. The Power Run PB midsole is beautiful. The combination of it all put together with this super lightweight upper fits like a glove. Minor bit of heel slippage in the Pro, a little bit of lateral heel movement in the Speed, but it's very minimal. That's the only downside I can think about this shoe. On the whole, this thing has been amazing. How would I recommend it? If you can get a pair, 100% I recommend it. These things come into stock and then go out of stock quicker than you believe, and I'm hoping towards the end of the year they'll restock a little bit more so more people get the chance to run in this shoe. But yeah, 100% I'd recommend this thing. And moving swiftly on to the New Balance FUELCELL PRISM. New Balance for me at the moment as it stands are in the running for brand of the year. Despite Saucony's incredible ENDORPHIN lineup, I've tested so many great New Balance shoes this year and they just work really, really well for me. We've had the 1080 version 10, we've had the TC, we've had the Tempo, and now we've got this thing. It's an absolute beauty of a shoe. Lightweight, breathable, exactly what you want for summer running. It is a mildly supportive shoe. I am a neutral runner, but I can get away with it. We have a very, very, very small bit of extra thermofoam here in the medial post. That's it. The FUELCELL midsole in this shoe, also for the supportive people out there, has a firmer composition than what you might find in the FUELCELL TC or the Propel or other shoes that use FUELCELL midsole. It's a really great, it's almost like what I would call a hybrid supportive shoe. You know, like with the Nike PEGASUS 36 Trail, when that came out, it was like this, it wasn't a breakthrough, but it was like this hybrid road running, trail running shoe. We could do a bit of both. Well, this is kind of like that for the supportive world. For people that need mild support, this is going to be fantastic. It'll be the lightest support shoe you ever try. If you need full-on support, it's probably not going to be good enough for you, but this thing, this extra support in the medial post here will just stop you overpronating a little bit more than, say, a normal neutral shoe would. So if you're mildly supportive, I'd highly recommend trying out this shoe. It is super lightweight, as I said, super breathable, super comfy, wide toe box, lots of extra material here, so be wary if you have a narrow foot or you have a low I'm trying to think of the wording now. If you have a low volume foot, that's the word, where your arch is a bit lower and your feet are a bit thinner, then you're going to feel like you're swimming a little bit in the toe box, maybe a little bit like the Nova Blast. But if you have a bigger foot like me, wider, higher arch, this thing fills out very, very nicely. How have I used this shoe? It's been an absolute beauty across the board. Yes, this is an everything shoe, a shoe you want in your arsenal. Daily runs, easy runs, steady runs, speed runs, hill runs, long runs, everything. This shoe is great. And what I love about this shoe as well is the lighter shoes that you end up really enjoying on speedier work, let's say like the ENDORPHIN Pro or even like the Nova Blast, you have this temptation to run fast in them. I actually don't get the temptation in this shoe. If I want to slow down, I can slow down in this thing. The Nova Blast is very difficult for me to slow down in, but for me, this thing has been an absolute brilliant workhorse over these last couple of summer months, and I would highly, highly recommend this one. Bursting onto the scenes this year is ATREYU, and for me, I got the standard colorway version. So ATREYU are a new company out of Texas in the USA. I pre-ordered my shoe back in February or March or April time, I can't remember, and they've just done their first shipment last month, and we have already got over 50 miles in this shoe. This is the lightest shoe I have in my rotation, an absolutely ideal summer running shoe. 8 ounces flat, 220 something grams in a UK size 13. So you imagine with you guys and your normal size feet what the weight will be on this thing. This absolutely disappears off your foot when you're running. Now for me, what have I been using it for? It is a little bit like the PRISM in the fact that I've been able to do everything in it. I've felt comfortable doing easy runs in it, speed work in it. It definitely lends itself more to the faster work, tempo days, speedier days. Long runs, I did a good 18 mile or 20 mile long run in the shoe. It felt great. It held up really well. But I've got to be honest with you, this thing straight away, when I think speed work, I think of the ATREYU and I think of the ENDORPHIN Speed. However, I wouldn't also be hesitant to pick it up for some easy daily running. So for me, this again is becoming a bit of a jack of all trades shoe. I would highly recommend it. The durability on this thing is going to be a little bit less on some of the other shoes that I'm talking about, just because, well, that's what ATREYU have come out and confirmed. You estimate to get 150 to 200 miles out of these shoes, but they are beyond affordable at $55 for their subscription, monthly subscription. When you get a new shoe every month, it is peanuts, absolutely peanuts. So it is highly recommended, highly worth it, and definitely worth checking out if you can grab some. Moving on to the last two shoes, we've got the HOKA One Torrent 2. This is obviously not a particularly summery shoe, but for me it's been in my rotation now for the last couple of weeks. I've been trying it out because we are training for a mountain marathon in October, so I have been using it in summer. It's only fair for me to include the shoe because I've been training in it. So the HOKA One Torrent 2 is the first trail shoe that I've picked up since the Nike PEGASUS 36 Trail last year, and I've been really, really pleasantly surprised with how this thing is doing. For me, trail shoes in my head are thick, clunky, heavy, just not fun to run in, but this thing completely changes that mindset completely. And I know that there are so many other amazing trail shoes out there. It's just from my previous experience with trail shoes. I had some ASICS trail shoes that were just like walking hiking boots. It was ridiculous. So these things are actually quite lightweight. I think it was under 12 ounces in my size. Lovely, perfect grip on the bottom for the type of trails that I'm running on, the type of races. I don't need super thick lugs, but I certainly don't want like a hybrid running shoe like the Peg Trail 36. Comfort levels in this thing are through the roof, and again, for summer running, relatively breathable. We've got quite breathable upper here, so if you are looking for a trail shoe to do a bit of mixing up some of your running in the summer months, then I've got to be honest with you, this thing would be on my list to try. And finally, just like the Nike Pegasus 37 in the first video, we have the HOKA Oni RINCON 2 in this video, where we have not put any miles in it, but this will be broken out and tested before we get to the end of August. So this will technically be one of my final running shoes, running summer shoes of the year. Now, you guys, if you're an OG subscriber or a subscriber back from last year, you'll know that the RINCON 1 was my shoe of 2019. It was brilliant despite the durability, the longevity of the shoe. It flattened out for me very, very quickly, well before 200 miles, and I eked it out to 240 miles, but that's as much as I could get out of the shoe. But in those 240 miles, or in the 180, I'd say, before it really started to flatten out, those are some of the best running miles that I had in any shoe. The RINCON just worked for me like no other, so I could not pass up the opportunity to get myself the RINCON 2 when it was released here in the UK. So this is going to be the final running shoe that I'm going to be testing in the summer season before we move into the autumn and winter. And for me, super lightweight, super breathable. The RINCON again has been something I set PRs in back last year in multiple race distances, and I'm hoping that for a non-carbon plated shoe it can do the same again for you guys. It's super affordable as well. It's not a shoe that's going to break the bank. I think it's literally £100, 105, and no doubt you can get a discount code from somewhere. It's absolutely brilliant. So the RINCON 2 is on the list to try, and this will be my final summer running shoe. So that's it. Those are my summer running shoes. Some of the shoes that I really wanted to try but haven't yet been able to get my hands on, that I was hoping that I'll be able to before the end of the year, but we'll just have to see how things go, because we're approaching autumn and winter, and we're going to need to get some different style shoes as the weather changes. Obviously, of course, in summer we want lightweight, poppy running shoes because the weather is nice and warm, but as we get into the rainier seasons, which happens a lot here in the UK, we're going to need to adapt some of those shoes. Some of the ones that I wanted to try, I haven't tried the Propel 2 yet, haven't tried the Clifton 7, haven't tried the Beacon 3. There's probably others that in there that I was thinking about that I wanted to say, but those are three that spring to mind that I really wanted to try. So let me know in the comments below if you've tried any of those and how you're finding them. And then of course we'll be moving into the autumn winter shoe selection, which I will then do a video on in a couple of months time and share the shoes that I'm going to be testing in and around that time. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what your go-to summer running shoes have been, how you're finding them, the mileage you're putting in them, and how they're holding up durability wise. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then.